Welcome to the podcast, Damiano.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're
Great to
welcome.
be here.
Yeah. So let's start out by just telling us about startup slang, how you got started, and what drove you into getting into the e-commerce space.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, hi everyone. My name is Damiano. I am the founder and CEO of an agency, an e-commerce development agency in Canada called Startup Slang. Startup Slang is today a 50 people company. We have three offices in Toronto, Montreal, and Kingston, Ontario, in Canada as well. We are a distributed team, and we have all sorts of talents on our team. So from designers to developers to e-commerce specialists, we like to market ourselves as the plug and play e-commerce department. So we can help merchants with everything from A to Z, from design and development of their store to content production and marketing and everything that comes with scaling the actual store itself. Um, so yeah, like the last 3.5 years. So we started in 2017. So the last three and a half to 4 years have been pretty interesting. I started off this journey really as a freelancer on Fiverr. So I started off by selling Shopify stores for just $30. It was kind of a side hustle.
Hmm.
And I was working as an e-commerce manager for a brand in Toronto at the time. And yeah, very quickly my freelancing career kind of took off, and more and more clients wanted to work with us. And eventually I left that job and ended up doing this full time. And yeah, and then somehow we grew to 50 people, which is crazy.
Hey, that's a
Yeah,
great story,
yeah,
especially right now. But e-commerce is exploding because every because of COVID and so forth. So I thought it would be good to have you on the show to kind of talk about some of the things I see on these Facebook groups, which is like people are struggling getting their stores started. They ads or they spent, like, I saw this post the other day. I spent $20,000 on my store and I'm not getting any traffic. So, if you were to kind of give some people some advice, like what are some of the things that you see clients struggling with, and some recommendations, maybe some tips you might give them to help them, drive more sales, or what are they doing that helps them, that prevents sales from happening on their store?
absolutely. I mean, over the last 4 years, we've worked with over 2,000 merchants, so
Hmm.
we've seen a lot happen in these people's businesses. So we've seen a lot of them succeed, but we've also seen a lot of them fail.
Mm.
And usually, like if you were to build a business and that business becomes super successful, it's because you've aligned certain things to make sure that that happens. Like one of the things that I like to compare it to is kind of like a restaurant, right? Like, so if you were to open a restaurant, there's a few things that you would think about before you do that, right? Like the
Hmm.
location of the restaurant,
Right.
the customer base, the type of food, the quality, the taste, the price, the atmosphere, the service. All these things come into play, and they're pretty important, right? And I feel like with e-commerce, there has been this, I guess, because of the drop shipping culture and the gurus online, there has been this kind of mentality of this is a quick way to make money. And
Hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if you are going to build a business and if you're going to build an e-commerce business, it requires an insane amount of work, and a lot of research before you get to the stage where you're actually selling. And so one of the things that I usually like to talk about is just the three main pillars of an e-commerce business. And those three main pillars are product, content, and conversion. And
Hmm.
within those pillars, you have certain things that are going to line up to ensure that you're successful with a launch and then that you can also scale. So for the product, for example, that pillar is super important. That's usually where you should start, right? Like if you're going to be selling a product, you need to figure out what value proposition your product is offering, what problem you're solving for your end customer, and you want to be able to offer something that's high quality and that can actually last a long time for your client to be able to enjoy it and to be able to recommend it to other people, right? It's the same thing with a restaurant, right? If the quality of your food is good, other people are going to tell their friends about it and they'll come back, right? Um, and so that really comes into being able to tell a story around your product and then creating an experience with the fulfillment, with the inventory, with the customer service that is the best possible experience that you can give to your clients. And that's really like the first pillar, you know?
That's very important because I'm on this kick about the business behind the business is the business. and how more companies need to really focus on that as part of their differentiation or unique selling strategy. And I see a lot of people online, like you said, I'm a drop ship and I'm gonna go live in Tahiti and live this great life and make 200,000. But they don't. It's just like any other business. It's work until it's not, right? So
Yeah.
you have to treat it like that. And I really think there needs to be a commitment to being a business owner because it's not for everybody, right? So yeah, I'm really glad you're focusing on that. So when clients come to you, are they at the are have some of them gone down the path and realized they made a mistake, or are you getting them on the front end to really avoid some of these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
usually we try to put our clients on the right path, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you can't blame people for coming to us being like, I want the high converting website for
Mm-hmm.
some random product that I find on AliExpress because that's what they've seen online and they've seen that that's what people do. However, I'm not a massive proponent of dropshipping from China.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a good business for people that want to learn e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think it's a long-term strategy at all. A lot of the stuff that I see within the dropshipping world is stores that don't really last a very long time because of issues with saturations and no barrier of entry to being able to sell the products and a lot of people copying each other. And so that usually creates, I mean, like, there's this debate online of between people that they argue on whether dropshipping is a good business model or not. But the way that I see it is, can you build a sustainable company out of it? If you look at startup Slang, we're a 50
Mm-hmm.
people business today.
Right.
So we're able to sustain 50 people and their lifestyles through like salaries and through like work and all that. And I've personally never seen, or very rarely seen, a dropshipping business that is like that, right? And by dropshipping business, I mean dropshipping from China, right?
Right. Yeah, the
There's
AliExpresses and
exactly.
Overly and all these other little tools people use. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think, once you've narrowed it down to a product in an industry that you want to be into, maybe dropshipping is a good way to start to test the
Mm-hmm.
market, to learn e-commerce. But over time, you want to build a real e-commerce experience and a real e-commerce operation. And so having control over your supply and your inventory, I think, becomes fairly important. And so bringing a lot of that inventory to your home country, driving down the price by doing that. That's usually how you can actually scale a dropshipping business, by not necessarily making it a dropshipping business. And I say this fully
That's
knowing
funny.
that
That's so funny.
dropshipping, at the end of the day, dropshipping is just a fulfillment mechanism, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you can have suppliers that are closer to you as well, where you can have actual relationships and you can have a lot of like control over the actual pipeline because you can partner up with them in a lot of cases. And so a lot of people forget that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off the business, if you're in e-commerce, really think about the fulfillment system, the customer service, the experience, the product, the value that your product is bringing to people. That is like the main pillar. Everything else will come from that, right? So the second
Mm-hmm.
pillar is content, and then the third pillar is conversion. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do any of that right unless you get the product right at the beginning.
That's interesting because I'm in this e-commerce drop shipping Facebook group, and I just love seeing the comments. One guy said, I paid somebody on Fiverr and he found me 10 great products. And my question was, how do you know they're great? You haven't sold them yet. He never responded. So I thought that was funny. But
Exactly.
so when you get to let's kind of dive into the content piece. So how would you break that up into small nuggets for like takeaway points for people to when they think about content? Like, is it influencer based? Are you talking about SEO, product description? Can you kind of dive into that a little bit for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mm-hmm.
the second pillar is content. And I feel like content is super important because that's everything that your customer will experience when they deal with your brand. So the way that I look at it is, let's go back to the example of the restaurant, right? Now you've thought of the experience and the service and the atmosphere. The content really becomes, the type of chairs you're gonna have like in your restaurant, and like the way that things are gonna look and be laid out. And so when it's about an e-commerce product, you're looking at like you said, like the description, any sort of text that's written about your product, any sort of video reviews, like photography, 3D renderings of your products, like all of that content is what your clients are going to be engaging with to get to know your brand. And so it's incredibly important. And so usually when a client comes to work with us, the best clients are the ones that have put a lot of emphasis and a lot of work on their content. The worst, obviously, are the ones that haven't. So if you have a dropshipping store and you just take the normal product photos that your client is going to give you or that your supplier is going to give you, that's not necessarily the best just because those are the same exact photos that everyone is selling with. And so to kind of like engage your client with something unique, that's not the best way to do it. However, you can hire an agency like us, or you can hire a photographer, or even do it yourself if you wanted to. And you can take some really nice product photos that make your product stick out. When it comes to influencer marketing, you can send your products to a few influencers, make a lot of partnerships that way, get them to review it. So like that, you have a few video reviews, and you get honest opinions from people about the actual product. And all of that content is going to it's basically going to dictate how you're going to be setting up your funnels, which is the third pillar, which is conversion. And at the conversion point, that's really when you start looking at the website, right? So usually people, they jump steps and they go directly to the website being like, all right, I want to build a Shopify store, never having thought of the product, never having thought of the content, right? But there are steps that you have to take into account before you get to that point to have the best possible conversion at the end.
Oh, interesting. So, if we could dive back to the product piece, something I wanted to kind of touch on was, do you have a methodology or any recommendations for people in going through the journey of selecting a product? Because I see a lot of people online just randomly selecting things, not based on like any research or customer discovery or anything, but just, hey, this product's hot on AliExpress, so I'm gonna start selling it. So, what tips would you
Right.
offer
Yeah.
people to kind of go start researching product in a more sophisticated way? So,
Absolutely. So I
mhm,
think, like one of the things you can do is just look at what's out there in the market today, right?
mhm,
This is one of the things that I do all the time. So I'll go out in the market and it happens to me, right? Like the best
mhm,
products are built by people who want to use a specific product and can't find what they need. And
mhm.
so, and that happens to all of us, right? Like in a lot of
Right.
cases, I'll be looking for things on Amazon or on Shopify, or I'll be Googling around for looking for specific products. And then I don't find the quality or the price point that I'm necessarily looking for. And so because of that, that kind of pushes me into, oh, but what if I did this? What if I wanted to make something better and make the product that I couldn't find myself? And so that's usually, like, from what I've learned, a lot of my best clients come from that sort of mentality where they're like, I want to build something for myself or for my community or for people to be able to give them value. And I want to build something that is actually better than everything else that's kind of out there, or find a product and find a relationship that can allow you to service a specific customer pain point in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's
So
usually how I approach it. Like you start with a pain point, and then you try to find a product that's a solution to that pain point.
that is business 101. Find a problem and find a way to solve it, right? So, and that's why you can't look at it like typically like most people do, which is, hey, I'm gonna do this and it's not gonna be any work. If it was work, everybody would do it, and it's a commodity. So, so what is your thoughts on, like, there's two schools of thought on product. Like people aggregate things to create this new product or a standard existing product. So where I'm just buying something and reselling it, or I'm buying a bunch of pieces and creating something new from it. Like I met, like my business partner Albie met a gentleman who bought all these different products to make a bike, but it kind of got over like 50 or 100 different pieces. He would aggregate it together and create these bikes that people wanted. So, do you have a slant, like one versus other? Is it a better business model if you can create something unique, or just reselling something that's hard to find when people are just getting started?
hmm
So,
hmm
mm-hmm,
So I think both ways
mm-hmm,
can work either way. I
mm-hmm,
mean, like I also have clients that just take a lot of products that are already on the market, put them in a subscription box, and then start selling that as a
mm.
subscription box.
Okay.
Um, one of the companies that I work with, on well, that I work with, I'm actually a customer. I don't work with them. It's Good Pup, because I just got a puppy, and
Mm-hmm.
puppies need a ton of toys and all sorts of stuff every month. And so I subscribed to this box, a Good Pup, and I was able to now I get a box every single month, at my place, with like a bunch of stuff for my puppy. It makes him happy, and I don't have to like break my head over what I need to buy next. And so that was a pain point that a lot of new dog owners have, and that
Mm-hmm.
they were able to kind of find a solution to by creating this subscription box, which really doesn't have anything that innovative in it, right? It's all
Hmm.
stuff that you can usually find on Amazon, maybe at a better price because they buy them in bulk, and then they can
Mm-hmm.
put them in boxes. So you do get about $100 worth of stuff for $30 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like a little bit of a saving there. They've kind of figured that out, and I think it really comes down to that. It really comes down to creating a value proposition to your customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that you, the way that you service that value proposition, like
Mm-hmm.
as long as it works for your customer and as long as you're giving them value, I think that's the like. It doesn't really matter in that sense whether it's a product that they're getting from somewhere else that already exists, or they're trying to innovate something. Obviously, when you're innovating something, that also comes with its own costs. You might have to think about patenting, or something like that. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of ways around it. I'm a big proponent of the subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
I love subscription boxes. I think they are the future of e-commerce, because you just kind of don't think about it. And like I almost everything, almost my entire life is based on subscriptions now. So my groceries come to my house based on subscriptions, my dog food, and like pretty much everything. So and I think that's it's just way more convenient for people, and because it touches
Yes.
so many pain points, it just works out, right?
So now content. This is something I see a lot online that people are struggling with. How much should I pay this influencer for my content based on the following? I saw a post the other day and they said, "Hey, I paid this influencer X number of dollars," and then everybody chimed in, "Hey, you paid them way too much for their following." Blah blah blah. But do you have any tips on like how do you benchmark an influencer, like the ROI, so you're getting the value versus the cost? Do you have any how do you sort of help your clients with those type of things around the content piece at all?
I mean, choosing an influencer, it's
Mm-hmm.
usually the same as kind of choosing an agency, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of like influencer agencies out there that
Mm-hmm.
I usually kind of it's usually for like larger brands, but
Mm-hmm.
um, because it is pretty expensive to do like an influencer drop with an agency. But if you
Mm-hmm.
were to go through an agency like that, those influencers have already been vetted. A lot of times they've
Okay.
already been tested, and because of that, the ROI is a lot higher, but it is more expensive. Other than that, if you wanted to vet and test yourself, I think it comes with being able to create a relationship with the actual influencer, right? So in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cases, I'll get on the phone with them. I'll ask them, how like some case studies or how things have happened in the past with other
Mm-hmm.
people who advertise their products to their audience, and what kind of products as well. So I think that's pretty important too. I think when it comes to the influencer, the other thing is if you can become part of their following and really engage in the conversation and engage with the people in there before you hire them, and you get a feel for the type of people that are in there, and you can narrow down the customer persona of your customer to the followers of the influencer, that's usually when you can figure out whether there's a really good synergy between you and the potential influencer and the drop that you want to do. And then other than that is data, right? So you have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
look at the engagement rate, look at how many people are clicking the posts, or stories, or and things like that, and then usually you can get a pretty good kind of understanding of the potential outcome. But like anything, this is business, and so you have to take the risk and try it and test it to make sure that it works, right? Like that's usually how it goes. Every brand is different, every influencer is different, so you have to like you have to put those things together, and it's you're gonna get a different result every time, right?
Yeah, so I have this three-step process I call validate, measure, validate, benchmark, measure. So we should do a small test to validate and have a outcome that you hope for. And then if you didn't get the outcome, try to figure out why, and then test again. And then once you get the outcome that you should or you hope for, then you can benchmark it over a longer period of time and then just start measuring for improvement, tweaks, or double down on whatever. So I think that's really
Absolutely.
important. So if we kind of get into the funnel or the conversion piece, like some people in the audience may not know what a sales funnel is. So first, can you kind of explain that for, the lay person, and then two, how to link conversion to success and what people
Yeah.
should be doing to really drive conversion. So.
Absolutely. I mean, the most rudimentary kind of definition, a
Mhm.
sales funnel is the journey that your customer will take from the moment that they find out about your offer to the moment that they actually purchase it, right?
Mhm.
So there are different stages to a sales funnel. I usually like to work with a four-stage sales funnel. There's like seven-stage sales funnels out there. But the four stages that I usually work with are decision, interest, awareness, interest, decision, and action.
Mhm.
So within that, you kind of create an experience for your customer where they can go through the entire sales funnel and they get closer and closer to the conversion point, understanding that, like if you think of what a funnel looks like, the top of the funnel is much bigger than the bottom of the funnel, and that's because
Mhm.
of the amount of people that you have in the funnel, which means
Right.
that a lot more people will become aware of your offer than the people who are actually going to purchase it, right? And you have to be okay with that. And so once you see it like that, then you start understanding that this entire concept is based on the premise that if enough people see your offer, some of them will purchase, right?
Mhm.
So your job is to figure out what's called the conversion rate, which is how many people need to see your offer for some of them to actually convert. And because your funnel is always the same experience that people are going through, once you have the conversion rate, then you can scale that by just showing your offer to more people within the same experience and the same journey that they go through. Now that was a bunch
So
of theory. So let me
no,
give you
that's
examples.
okay. So what I know conversion rates vary, but what are you looking for as a benchmark of a good conversion rate, say for a product that's 200 or less to purchase online? Like what should
Um,
people be aspiring to get to in your
yeah,
opinion?
so
So.
so usually 2 to 4%
Mm-hmm.
is a pretty good conversion rate for an
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce store.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there are stores that do more. There are stores that do less. It also depends on, your profit margins. It depends on, like how many people you want to reach out to and things like that. But usually, you try to get between 2 and 4% conversions for your Shopify store.
Okay.
Um,
So what's your thoughts on customer acquisition and lifetime value? Because I put a big emphasis on this simply because
yes.
you see places once they convert, they lose customers because of some bad experience. Like, oh, I had something, I ordered something and then I had to cancel it because, like you said, they use AliExpress and now they can't
Yep.
fulfill the order or the fulfillment piece got missed. So do you take that in consideration when you're working with your clients and helping them understand those metrics
Yeah.
against
100%.
as well. So I would love to hear that as well. So.
100%. And that's also why we do a lot of that back end work before we get to the conversion point, right? It's
Mm,
because we need to make sure that we're creating an experience for the client that makes sense.
mm,
And that the product can be fulfilled in a reasonable amount of time, that the client is able to track it, that they're able to have as many notifications along the way, because the number one question that's asked in the e-commerce world is, where is my product?
yes.
um, and so as long as you're making sure that you're answering that question, because it will happen, um, you can create an experience for the customer that is like friendly enough, and that it's user friendly for them to be able to reorder from you. One of the things that I usually say is that if you don't have repeat purchases, you don't have a business.
Right.
um, because it's pretty important for you to make sure that those repeat purchases happen. On Shopify, you actually have an entire ecosystem of apps that add to the technology of the native platform, in order to enhance your Shopify store and to be able to create repeat purchases through different experiences. Now, it's your job as the merchant to be able to figure out what that experience looks like. And what we do here as an agency, whenever we build Shopify stores, is that we actually make sure to put all of the tracking required to understand how people are using your website. Because once you start
Mm,
tracking that user behavior, then you can actually make a lot of decisions and analyze the data to figure out how you can increase conversions on your store, and remove any sort of drop-off points or friction points or anything like that.
Okay, so
There's a lot of ways to do that.
do you have do you use Google Tag Manager to manage all those insight tools, or do you use something else, or you have a recommendation for people to like? I know Hotjar is real popular, and obviously Google Analytics, but do you have any tools that you would recommend to the audience?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to do this, and there's a lot of tools that are just never taken into account. And that's why, like, I usually tell people, go work with an agency, and if they're
Okay.
a professional agency, they'll
Hmm.
actually tell you a lot of the
Okay.
stuff. A lot of stuff that we do is around user testing. And
Mm.
so for merchants that already have people there, like, we actually do interviews with them. We find out exactly what it is that they like about the site, that they don't like about the site. We gather
Mm.
all of that insight to be able to take the decisions that we need. There's also tools like Hotjar, like you said, which can,
Mm.
it's heat maps, so they can show you where people are clicking and dropping off. Shogun is a great tool to be able to create landing pages and A/B test them, and A/B test different sort of elements on the actual pages and stuff. And then obviously Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, everything that you need to be able to track the user behavior, the Facebook pixel, all those things are incredibly important. And once you have that, then you can start creating a really clear picture of how people are using your site,
Mm.
and how your site is converting. And then once you have that picture, then it becomes a lot easier for you to improve it, because what doesn't get tracked doesn't get managed. So as long as you're tracking, then you can improve it and you can manage it over time.
Oh, that's great advice. So just for people who aren't familiar with working with an agency versus going on their own, can you kind of just talk about the how you enable success in e-commerce versus people that are going it alone, and the value that you can offer people so they can get a better understanding why they should work with an agency if they can afford it. So.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think working with an agency, and this is stuff that I've realized over the last 4 years by running an agency,
Hmm.
is that my expertise and the expertise that my team has here is very unique, because we've worked with 2,000 businesses before, right?
Hmm.
So think of it this way, right? Everyone that's listening here, you're likely to have had a job at some point, right?
Right.
So if you have the job for, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to become an expert at it, right? You really
Hmm.
know how to do your job. If somebody asks you how something is done at your job, you'll be able to tell them step by step exactly how they need to get that task done. Now imagine having that experience, but with thousands and thousands of businesses,
Wow.
right? So we actually get to see thousands and thousands of businesses from the inside, right? We see their pain points, we see why they're succeeding, we see why they're failing, we see everything, right? And so because of that, when a client gets into a relationship with an agency, you kind of want to make sure that the relationship is something that you can foster over time, because you're not going to find that type of expertise in just random freelancers or a person, or an employee, right?
Hmm.
And so in a lot of cases, if you start going towards an agency that has worked with a lot of companies in your industry, all of a sudden you start realizing that all of these companies, as they scale, they start having the same exact issues. And so if the agency has solved those issues in the past for those companies, they can accelerate your growth and do it for you as well, because they already have the solution. And so that's really where a lot of the value comes from. I think when working with agencies is that you have a much larger reach on the knowledge. And also because we have a team of 50 here, so we have a ton of talented people that can really get into the store and improve it to convert better, and to make sure that, we're hitting all of the key performance indicators for the client. Um, and we can do that pretty quickly, right? So if you have just one person working on your store, the maximum they can do is maybe 40 hours a week as a full-time kind of job. But when you hire an agency, we can put 80 hours a week on your store if you want. We can put 160 hours a week if you want it on your store, because we have multiple people working here, and we can manage the entire thing for you. So that's usually how we kind of approach it. And I think, like, as businesses are moving online with COVID and all that, the role of the agency becomes incredibly important, because we're there to really guide a lot of these businesses towards their point of success with the experience that we have.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'm going to give a shout out. definitely talk to him, reach out to Damiano and get your tips. So how will people get in touch with you just so if they're listening to this part and they want to follow up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website. So our company is
Hmm.
called Startup Slang. So you can go to
Hmm.
startupslang.com. We have a really nice live chat there and a contact button. You can also find me on Instagram at Startup Slang or at Damiano R. And obviously I'm on Fiverr as well at the Damiano R store. So I've been on Fiverr for something like 4 years now. So should be pretty easy to find me there
Pretty.
if you just look for Shopify services.
So just before we wrap up, I always ask people these two questions. What excites you about e-commerce and what worries you? What scares you about the future of e-commerce?
Interesting question. So, okay, let's start with the first one. So,
Hmm.
what excites me about e-commerce is the possibility.
Hmm.
On the Shopify platform today, there are about 1.5 million stores. That's not that many, right? There
Hmm.
will be a time when there's gonna be 10 million Shopify stores. And so because of that, the growth trajectory that e-commerce is on right now is insane. I think over the next 5 years, it's going to be a societal shift, like something we've never seen before in the history of humanity. We're
Oh,
about
wow.
to innovate on something that is innate in our human culture, which is to trade items with
Hmm.
each other.
Yes.
And that has never happened in thousands of years. And so that really excites me a lot and makes me wake up in the morning and want to work into this industry. What scares me the most what scares me the most, I guess, is the uh, I don't want to lose human touch while we do
Mm.
that. And
Yes.
so I think, being able to, like, yes, buy things because they're convenient on Amazon, but at the same time, I would like to see a lot more opportunities for small businesses, for more local kind of e-commerce businesses to help their local communities and stuff like that. And so I am a little bit scared of large conglomerates like Amazon or large conglomerates, like Walmart or bigger kind of companies taking over a lot of the market share and not having enough space for the smaller players. And that's also one of the reasons why we've aligned ourselves with Shopify, because we believe
Mm.
that Shopify's main objective is to really foster a lot of that entrepreneur kind of community. And it aligns with what we want to do as well. So, um, yeah, just being able to support local businesses, because local businesses are the lifeline of our nations in a lot of cases, and I think it's
Oh,
important for us to do that.
oh, for sure. I mean, that's why my company Ovalz, that's our mission. How can you help enable 1 million small businesses become stronger and reach their fullest potential? And that's really what you do too by helping them through this journey of becoming a powerhouse in e-commerce to help drive more revenue, to help them grow. And that's, I think, all providers like ourselves do. So I really thank you for being on the show.
Yeah,
And
thank you so much, Marvin.
I look forward to posting this and continued success. And I'll definitely put your information in the show notes.
Awesome, thank you so much, Marvin.